All right. Get myself a quick sound check in, make sure everything is working properly. All right, there it is. Cool. All right, so tonight's live is going to be super quick. Um, I just wanted to make sure I get this information out here because there's a few things that I came across, especially like stuff that we've been talking about that's been going around like in the groups and that's being said on like the channels that I kind of associate with. So, because we've all been talking about it, here it is. One, there was a point when they were saying that because of his 20 years in the service, 20 plus years in the service, talking about Cory Bigsby, the father of missing 4 year old Codi Bigsby, that because of his military training, he probably they probably wouldn't have been able to get anything out of him in an interrogation. Uh, and there was talk about interrogation resistance training. Well, I called my uncle who has 20 plus years Army. He's a retired sergeant. I also made contact with some friends that I have, some of them Navy, some of them Army. And I think there's one Marine in there just to get an understanding of like what type of training um, people would have military wise as far as interrogation resistance and different things like that. So what you see on the screen here is just a screenshot of the messaging between me and one of my friends. I blocked out his face and cut off like his name or whatever just to preserve his privacy. This particular friend right here has um, recently left the military, honorably discharged. He was this is yeah, this one was Navy. He had over 10 years of service. So the question that I posed to him was, do all servicemen receive interrogation resistance training? Is is that only, I can't even read my own text today, Lord. Help me, let's try it again. What it was supposed to say is, or is, do all servicemen receive interrogation resistance training, or is that only for certain ones in certain jobs? I'm asking because, and I was telling about a true crime channel and the situation with like Cody's dad and his military service and the interrogations. He says, yes, service members are trained only to give military ID number and branch of service. Special forces receive more in-depth resistance training. So at the very least, Cory would be trained to only give very bare minimum information. So I could see where maybe he talked about some things, but then shut down to basically a name, rank, and serial number on other things. So maybe he did talk about leaving the kids at home or whatever, but maybe when they got to questioning him about things to do with Cody and where Cody might be, he kicked in with the I ain't got nothing to say. This is my name. This is who I am. That's all you get. Okay. Now switching over to this tab. This I'm throwing in here just because I thought it was a pretty interesting little conversation. Hi Frank, that they were having about the interrogation process and the possibility, or actually we know it's a fact now, of him being denied an attorney, but some different things about that. So if anybody hasn't seen it, I'm going to play that right now. Okay, so I see I'm not getting sound. on that tab. Let's try this again. Let me go ahead and reshare that. Share. I'll just share the whole window. Get back over there to that one. And I think I closed it out. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Arctic Fox. Okay. Hopefully this time we have sound.
Search for Codi Bigsby. Today, volunteers continued to search for any signs of the missing 4-year-old boy. They spent much of the morning looking in and around the Ridgeway Dog Park off of East Mercury Boulevard in Hampton. As we reported, Bigsby was reported missing more than 2 weeks ago from his home in the Buckrow neighborhood. His father, Cory Bigsby, is behind bars, facing child neglect charges. This week, Hampton Police Chief Mark Talbot admitted that the lead detective on this case denied his rights to an attorney during questioning. Talbot also said that the department has policies and systems in place that should have allowed them to, quote, do better. We have obtained copies of those policies. They include standards for police to follow when interrogating a suspect and the constitutional requirements that officers must follow. Hampton police say that they read Miranda rights to Codi's father, Cory Bigsby, during the afternoon of January 31st, about 5 hours after he had reported his son missing. 10 on Your Side's investigative reporter Chris Horn has more on why this timeline is crucial. Chris?
The timeline is crucial, Stephanie, because it determines whether anything a person says to law enforcement about their potential involvement in a crime can be used in court. Convictions in major cases over the years have been reduced or reversed because of improper interrogations. Hampton Police Chief Mark Talbot says Cory Bigsby was read his rights on 2 occasions during the first day of the search for Codi, January 31st. However, earlier this week, Talbot said that the department mishandled Bigsby's request for legal counsel and that request should have been honored. The right to an attorney is one of the key aspects of the Miranda warning. Cases can pivot on whether law enforcement gave a clear explanation of that right. A 1998 double murder conviction in Los Angeles was reduced from first-degree murder to second-degree because of an improper interrogation. Ruben Lujan ambushed his estranged wife and their sheriff's deputy neighbor, beating them both to death with a chunk of concrete. Federal appeals court ruled that Lujan was not properly advised of his right to an attorney. And the U.S. Supreme Court reversed a Missouri murder and arson conviction. Patrice Siebert set her mobile home ablaze to hide the malnutrition death of her son with cerebral palsy, but in the process killed a teenager who was also in the home. The High Court's ruling said the officer's pattern of question first before reading Miranda rights was illegal and violated Siebert's rights under the 5th and 14th Amendments. As we've reported, the original lead detective was pulled from the case of Codi Bigsby's disappearance. Investigative producer Adrian Mayfield has much more on the details as well as the timeline of the case at wavy.com. Chris Horn, 10 on Your Side.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that little piece because, it kind of goes along with the conversations that we've been having. And just to kind of shed some light on it by some more knowledgeable people than myself, since I am not any type of legal professional. Like I've been saying, I just really hope and pray that whatever went on in that police department does not negatively affect the pursuit of justice for Codi. I've been seeing in the groups where a lot of people are like, why are we talking about Cory? We need to be keeping the focus on Codi, this, that, and the other thing. But the truth is, when it comes to this issue of Cory being denied his constitutional rights, to legal representation while he's being interrogated as a suspect in a crime. When it comes to the question of him being denied his rights, that could have a major and detrimental effect on the pursuit of justice for Codi. So it is an important topic of conversation, just of discussion to better understand the possible ramifications for people who don't really understand how the system works, so that they can get an understanding of, well, why is it such a big deal if he was denied an attorney? Why is it such a big deal at what point he was denied an attorney? All of that could factor in. I saw an excellent comment about it on that video, as a matter of fact, that we just watched, I believe it was. So if you go over to Wavy's channel and go down to the comments on this video, a person who apparently has some education or training in the judicial system made a comment that really kind of sums it up excellently. And I don't want to go all to YouTube to find that video and play it just to show a comment, but yeah, go in there, go to the link. The link for that video on YouTube is in my description, I believe. Check out that comment, and I think it really clarifies a lot of stuff. The other thing that was being talked about is Cory's charges. Have they been upgraded from child neglect to child abuse? Well, I kept hearing conflicting stories. I would hear one thing from one person, one thing from another. This is the Virginia court's website that I have the screenshot pulled up of, and it clearly says child abuse. So I was like, okay, yeah, it's been upgraded. So we go over here. Here's another. This is just a better screenshot of that same thing. It clearly says child abuse. Okay, can't zoom in on this one because this is actually a picture from Facebook. And here again, you see it says child abuse. I'm going to get to those first two that, oh, I was looking at the comments. I'm going to get to those first two that I just showed. This one. This one says child abuse, but you notice it also says bond appeal. What I learned in the comment section from locals, because I posed the question in the Codi group, in the larger Codi group, to get some understanding from people who are local to that area, who are more aware of how to look up things in their court systems, because it's different everywhere. How to read and understand and interpret like the way charges show up in their area. And here's the basic explanation that I got. There is also a link to this particular Facebook group thread where I posted this question. If you want to go in there and just read the whole thread with all the answers, it really, really helped me to understand some things. And I'm going to try to give you like the short synopsis of what I came to understand from the question that I posed. This particular page on the bond appeal, this shows up in criminal court, in their criminal court section, because of the way their system is set up. What you see here has nothing to do actually with any type of judicial action or process directly concerning the actual child neglect charges. This is just dealing strictly with him appealing the decision in his original request for bond. That's all that is. That is the only thing that is active in criminal court right now. The actual charges are indeed child neglect, and they are not in the criminal court. They are in their family court. Their family court is called something like Juvenile and Domestic Relations, JDNR. So if you look on their court records webpage, you'll see an abbreviation under, I think it's division, where it says J and DR, and that's showing you that it's in the family court. So anything to do directly with his child neglect charges are not going to be public access right now. They're sealed under family court. And I'm just going to call it family court because we all know what we mean by family court. That's the one that handles stuff with protective services cases and custody cases and things like that, not the criminal side of it. Now, the way it was explained, although they are criminal charges, initially they'll be in family court. The family court judge will basically act as kind of a pre-grand jury. He'll evaluate the circumstances, the situation, I guess whatever evidence or testimony or whatever is shown to him, and he will decide if it's something that needs to stay at a family court level or if it's something that needs to be sent to criminal court for uh, prosecution, criminal prosecution. At that point, and most likely it will be this. Well, I ain't even gonna say most likely anymore because the way that the case has been mishandled. Um, but if from that point it does go over to the criminal court, then it'll get into the regular process that most of us are familiar with as far as like grand juries, indictments, pretrial motions, and all that kind of stuff. And that is when we will be able to go in and like look up stuff on their court records websites and see court dates and uh, petitions filed or whatever other documentation is in there, provided the judge doesn't keep the case sealed. All right. This is the thread itself. I'm not really going to go into that a whole lot because I want to respect people's privacy. I don't want to like be scrolling through this, even though it's a public group. I don't want to be scrolling through this and like showing everybody's names and all that kind of stuff. Matter of fact, I don't want to be showing all my pictures and stuff. You guys can look at my Codi folder, Uh, and that's pretty much really what I wanted to get out there. I am kind of in the middle of some stuff, so I'm not going to be on here very long at all. And I think I touched on everything that I wanted to get out. We talked about the military training and how that may or may not have affected his interrogation, what information he may have given. We watched the video where they talked a little more about how the denial of an attorney might affect the case. Gave a few examples of previous incidents where something like that has happened. Talked about the charges. So the charges are not upgraded. Oh, that was the other thing. What was explained to me is, and I did want to pull up that code section. I think I'll close the window now. Let me look. Someone did share the actual code section. Here it is right here. Okay. Virginia, if you look under Virginia statutes, it is 18.2-371.1 is the code section that Cory is actually charged on under. The way it was explained to me is that section covers both child abuse and child neglect. When it shows up, the part that we can see publicly right now is kind of like just a generic title for that section, which is why we see it listed when we look at it as child abuse. Now, in the family court side, if we had access to those records, that would show the actual specific charge of child neglect, but we don't have access to that. If this case gets sent over to criminal court for criminal prosecution, then we'll see like a change in the wording. It won't be like that generic title. It'll basic rundown of how it was explained to me. But as I said, I linked this thread because I think it really there. I got a whole lot of information from this thread. People were really throwing out some good answers, good clear explanations, good examples. So please, by all means, if you haven't joined this group, even if you joined it just to go and check out this, Join the group. It's instant access. Check out this thread. Read the people's answers. Look at their examples, because I think that in a case where we've already seen um, some complications, that it's really important to get a good understanding of the process there. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Hi, Sleuth Mom. I'm going to be honest with you. When they started explaining to me how their court systems work, it was it's completely different than the court systems where I grew up. Like, I haven't even been able to find, most places will have like a site that you can look up inmates currently in their county jail. Now, in my home area, when you go to the county jail website and you pull up an inmate, it shows you the exact, like how this statute is listed here. It shows you the exact statute that they're charged under. It shows you exactly what their charges are. It even shows you whether it's a felony, a misdemeanor, the level, like is it a first degree felony? Is it a second degree misdemeanor? It shows you the bond information, the court information, even the arresting agency, whether it's local, city, county, even if it's federal. It shows you all that information right there. When you pull up that inmate, you'll see all that. You don't even have to go to another site or another page to find it. But like I said, systems are different. So I think it is really good if people who are really interested in understanding the process and seeking justice for Cody and understanding what's going on and what realistically could be the next steps, reading this thread and understanding how their system works and it's set up would be a great place to start. I did say this is going to be super short. I'm so in the middle of something, but I didn't want to not come on and give this information because we need to know what's going on. So I am out of here, guys. I I will probably be back on tomorrow evening when I have more time that we can just sit and talk and discuss some things. So good night, y'all. See y'all again soon.